So welcome to my class, and in this I'm going to talk about the law of variable proportions. We're going to understand what is the law. We are going to talk about the statement of the law. We are going to talk about the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase. And all this we are going to talk about, we'll understand with the help of a numerical example as you see, in which I'm going to write down TP, MP, and I'm going to write down about the phases. Okay, so here we go. Just have a look. Look at this. So law of variable proportions, actually it tells us in what manner the physical output changes as the variable input is increased. It also tells us the behavior of change in output. And this is summed up in the law of this law, which is known as the law of variable proportion. And this law again is an extension of another law. It's a very famous law, that's the law of diminishing returns. So here we're going to take this numerical example as to see the three phases. Okay, let's just take the statement first. What is the statement of the law? What does it say? It states that as we increase the quantity of only one input, keeping other inputs fixed, the total product increases at an increasing rate in the beginning, then increases at a diminishing rate after level of output, and ultimately falls. So this is what it is. So first phase, total product increases at an increasing rate up till P, as I showed you. P is the point of inflection. Okay. So in the first phase, it increases at an increasing rate, and MP increases. It reaches its height here. In phase 2 start when the MP starts to diminish it, but is positive. So TP increases at a decreasing rate after this. And then when phase 3 comes, TP falls. And TP falls and MP becomes negative. So that's it. This is all you have to understand. So we notice that marginal product diminishes both in phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. However, it is positive in phase 2 and it is negative in phase 3. Now let's just try to understand the law. So these three phases in the changes of TP on account of increase in the variable input. So we've kept the variable, the fixed factor as given. It's fixed. We are not even bothered. Whatever the fixed factor, it's fixed. We are only concerned with the variable factor in our numerical example or in the diagram. So just remember that. So explanation of the law. So phase 1, TP increases at an increasing rate. The rate here signifies marginal product. So in this phase, marginal product increases. So in the beginning, the quantity of the variable input is so small that fixed inputs cannot be effectively utilized. So let's take the variable input as laborers. As the number of workers increase, each worker is assigned a specialized task. This raises efficiency of the variable input. As the quantity of the variable input increases, more effective utilization of fixed inputs take place. So this also raises the marginal product of the variable input initially. So that is what is known as increasing returns to a factor. So we can, if you're talking about causes, you can say, we can list three causes. It could be fuller utilization of the fixed factor, and we can talk about division of labor that increases the efficiency, or we can also list another factor as better coordination between the factors. Okay. So now let's come to the second phase. Now TP increases at a decreasing rate. It means marginal product starts falling but remains positive, that is greater than 0. Now with the increase in the quantity of the variable input, a pressure is now being felt on the fixed inputs. The amount of fixed inputs looks smaller than actually required to engage the increasing variable input. So this reduces marginal product of the variable factor, but however marginal product is positive still. So second phase brings about in diminishing marginal product, but of course it talks about total product is increasing at a decreasing rate. So the decreasing rate is mirrored or showed by the fall in the marginal product. So you can see that. So till the marginal product is positive but is falling after the point of inflection, what we see is that the total product is increasing but at a diminishing rate. So of course we can explain the second phase in terms of, like, for example, one, the factors are fixed. So that is the principal cause for the law of diminishing returns, because as more and more units of the variable factors are combined with the fixed factor, the latter gets excessively utilized. So it suffers greater wear and tear and loses its efficiency. And that is why diminishing returns, number one. Okay. Second, we can attribute the second phase to, that is diminishing returns to a factor, to imperfect factor substitutability. That means factors of production are imperfect substitutes of each other. More and more labor cannot be continuously used in place of capital. Accordingly, diminishing returns are bound to set in if only the variable input is increased to increase output. So if you're not changing the fixed factor, only the labor is changed. So after a while, you cannot get the same result. Then of course, there's another point we can think about is the poor coordination between the factors. That means increasing application of the variable factor along with the fixed factor eventually disturbs the ideal factor ratio. Now, ideal factor ratio could be the optimum factor ratio or the most appropriate factor ratio. So this results in poor coordination between the fixed factor and the variable factors. Hence, we get what is known as the diminishing returns, which will continue to, it goes on to the, if it goes beyond that, you do get the phase 3 too. Okay, so that's what it is. So that is the diminishing returns. Now phase 3, what happens is, as you see, that TP starts falling. MP not only continues to fall but also becomes negative. It is because the quantity of the variable input becomes too big in relation to the quantity of fixed inputs. This reduces the efficiency of the variable input so much that the marginal product becomes negative and the total product starts falling. Okay, so this is how we can explain we've explained with the help of this numeric example. As you see, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is say 1 and 2. Till when 2 inputs are used, you have the phase 1. That means TP is increasing at an increasing rate. And from third onwards, the second phase sets in, which means that what happens is, in the second phase, that it is it is increasing at a diminishing rate and marginal product is falling. And in the third phase, it's gone. It's like negative. You have to do something. You've got to change your you have to bring in more fixed factors. So you've got to do something about it. If you don't want to, you don't want to go into that stage anyways. So what are the assumptions of the law? So for example, there are 1 or 2 assumptions that you must keep in mind. That the ratio in which factors of production are combined cannot be changed. And the second is the units of the variable factor are equally efficient. They are homogeneous. And another thing is they are increased one by one. Thus, the law of diminishing returns sets in not because later units of the variable factors are less efficient than the former ones. It sets in because of the ideal factor ratio is disturbed, or because the availability of the fixed factor like machine reduces per unit of the variable factor. And of course, the third important thing is the state of technology should not change. So with that, I'm sure you must have understood a little bit of the law of variable proportions. You can get a question as to explain the law of variable proportions with the help of a numerical example, or you can explain it with the help of a, they'll ask you, if it's a graph, just give the graph. If it's a numeric example, only a numeric example. Don't waste time making both. And another thing, sometimes the law of variable proportions is asked with the help of, what do you mean by the law of variable proportions, with the help of marginal product? Then just use the marginal product and explain, which means you will just take this. You don't have to show this. You'll just show the marginal product, the first stage, second stage, and the third stage. So we'll get back to class later on.